on DisruptEDtv. My name is Alcini,
My name is Joe Osamendi.
but more important than either of us, and the star of the show today is our guest, Jon Leidersdorff, who is the founder of Lakehouse Music Academy and Lakehouse Recording Studios. Is that right?
Yes.
Great. And as we were talking before the program, Jon, we're always looking for the disruptive idea. And I think what makes you unique is that you found a way to create a larger community around the education of music that includes professional musicians and people who are established in the music business. Could you talk a little bit about how you do that and what kind of a difference that makes?
Sure. We do have like you use that word community, there's definitely a community of musicians and artists that are part of Lakehouse. And those are the people that we hire. We've made a conscious decision to not just hire people with the credentials, but also to hire people that are still in the music industry, are still artists themselves and putting their energies there. So sometimes people go on the road and they take off, but that's something that I think most of our students understand and appreciate, because they know when they're sitting there with one of these educators that they like where this educator is and what they're doing.
Sure. I mean, they're talking to somebody who's walked the talk, not just somebody who knows a musical instrument.
Right.
There's somebody who successfully used that knowledge, and I think that's really powerful. Your school is in Asbury Park, New Jersey?
Yes, it's on Lake Avenue.
Okay, great. And now talk about getting names, established names in music to come and help. Was that a hard thing to do? Do you find they're willing to do that?
No, I think artists want to help. That's kind of part of their nature, and they're interested. So we happen to have first and foremost, I'm a record producer. That's what I've been doing for years, way before I had a music academy.
Okay.
But we have at our facilities, we have recording studios, and the academy is next door. So when these artists are coming into town, are coming into the studio, they become aware of the academy immediately, and they're interested. It's neat to see young people making music.
Sure.
That's great.
And the level of musicianship with some of these students, it's kind of a high caliber. It's fun to watch them do it. Yeah. So the artists that come through will see that, and they'll remember being that age or that stage, and they'll speak. A majority of them will speak with the students if you ask them to.
And offer advice and help them. And that we were also talking before the program about the importance of community and collaboration in the making of music. While individual students may come with a particular skill that they're looking to develop, working with other musicians is key to becoming a successful musician, and I know you help them with that.
Yeah. The model there's a model that you see now where the kids, we also have adults as well, but the students are immediately part of a band, part of an ensemble, and that makes it more relevant immediately. You're not practicing just by yourself on your scales or the fundamentals. You're also engaged by this group, and there's a goal. The goal is there is a gig they're playing towards, or a recording studio session they're getting ready for, or an artist that they're going to back up. So when there's that kind of real goal, the kids know they have something that they have to work for, and they're excited to work for, so it makes it real. And that's probably what's most different about our model at Lakehouse, is that it's real. So we're not just always learning other people's songs. We're sometimes working on, we have artist programs where our kids are writing their own music, and they're collaborating with successful writers who are have publishing deals and record deals and having success out in the world. So the kids are modeling that. They're seeing that's not only that a person do that decades ago, they're doing it now as well, and that's exciting to the students.
It's believable. It's a believable model. It's not theoretical anymore. It's real life.
Right.
And there's an immediacy to it. I mean, it's not important that I know how to do this number. It's important that I know how to perform this number by Friday, because I'm going up in front of a bunch of people by then. That puts a whole different spin on it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really key. How long have you been operating the Lakehouse Music Academy?
We will we'll hit 5 years in March. So
Great.
4.5 years.
That's terrific. And where did it come from? What made you do this?
I had my previous recording studio was only one recording studio, and we just got too busy. Kind of hit the ceiling where we needed to expand. And I had a moment where I really asked myself if I could have everything that I wanted, what would it look like? And it started with the design of the recording studios, and we hired the best studio designer in the world, and got the best equipment, and then I kept asking that question. And for me, I've been doing it since I was a child playing, and I saw those gaps in the education. I saw, when I was at band, I was yeah, but no one's talking about this. So we just try to have a diverse programming that would speak to the needs for the people that had the same type of goals that I had, which was to be a professional musician and an artist. So when I was producing different acts and we would get some of the kids record deals or publishing deals, you could see where they also would have benefited if they had a little bit more education, they had a little bit more support. Someone will watch American Idol or The Voice and they want to be a singer. But when you can have one of these educators say to them, but if you could accompany yourself, then you could play anywhere.
Right.
And then the next educator will come in and say, yeah, well, if you could accompany yourself and you could write your own music, and you're just getting this support. You're talking about giving them a real education without having to learn a lesson 10 years later. They can learn it now.
They're learning it now
Yeah.
when they can use it.
Exactly.
And that's really kind of key. You say you've got students I know you say you've got some pretty young students who attend Lakehouse Music Academy?
Yes.
How young? What's the...
Our programming is very diverse. On site, we have 6 months to, we have students that are in their 80s.
Really?
Yeah, and it's neat because we'd have different directors of education who work with the different, that's really their expertise, and they work specifically with those groups, and that's their background, keeping it relevant and keeping it real. But we have the parent in me type of classes when they're very young, and then it moves into that toddler age, and again, very early we're getting them to play the instruments and interact with each other and get connected to the music. It's amazing what the kids can do if you give them the opportunity.
Sure.
They can play the beats, they can sing the songs, they can hear pitch right away. And there's a real value in hitting those ideas when they're young. The kids hear pitch. If you teach them to listen to pitch, they hear it and they'll sing it. And sometimes naturally, and sometimes it's part of educating them. But you can educate them to hear that. Then we, all the elementary through high school programming, college prep programming, and then our adult programming. So, and there are communities inside of all those age groups. We also, across the hall from us in our building, Monmouth University has now brought in their music industry program and their record label because they wanted that proximity to the community and the recording studios as well, which has been great. And we hire a lot of people from Monmouth University now, so you see the community start to really grow after a few years.
That's great.
So.
We have to take a break. When we come back, though, we want to talk some more with Jon Leidersdorff about music education and his particular approach to it, because I think it's unique, and I certainly want to explore that some more.
Absolutely.
So we'll be right back with more of Jon after these messages.
Be right back.
Our culture is what we believe in, and our brand is what we do in our work. When our brand and our culture are in alignment with each other, we become more than just good. We become excellent. Think of this alignment as a mix of flavors in our water cooler. When we gather around and drink it ourselves, we're savoring our culture. When we serve it to our friends and neighbors, we're expressing our brand. So, what's in your water cooler? For groups of all kinds and sizes, our brand and culture alignment toolkit will provide you with a unique water cooler recipe that expresses and makes you the very best at what you do. It all starts with a simple, affordable 20-minute online survey. Completely confidential, you can take it whenever suits your schedule. Within 2 days, you'll receive a BCAT report that expresses your team's signature brand and culture in plain English and includes simple exercises that will help align your team's leaders, stakeholders, and members.
Welcome back, everybody, to DisruptEDtv. My name is Alcini.
My name's still Joe Osamendi.
But our guest is Jon Leidersdorff, Lakehouse Music Academy and Lakehouse Recording Studios. And just before the break, at the end of the last segment, you were talking about what I would say is unique lifelong learning. You've got some students that are less than a year old and other students that are in their 80s. And that means that every student who comes into Lakehouse Music Academy follows their own path through the music experience, and somehow you manage all that. How do you do that?
I got a great staff.
That's great.
We have a lot of people that work for us, but I think we cater to the student when they come in.
Okay.
And there usually is a place that really makes sense. We have a very diverse community. We have a lot of musicians and students there, so there's usually a place that really makes sense. And being able to give that service is a luxury at this point. We didn't start off that way, but I think you were asking me before the question about where a student is and their level, their capacity, and their level of seriousness or virtuosity. I think one of the great things about music is that everybody can pretty much relate to it, and that you don't really have to judge every student of whether they're going to be successful or not, a professional musician or not.
Okay.
They should still have this interaction with music and this opportunity. And I think there are different levels here. We have kids that are becoming professional musicians and having real success in the world, but we also have a lot of kids who are just checking it out. A lot of adults who are just doing it as a hobby, and that's very valuable as well.
That's important too, and so you have to kind of balance being honest with people, because you have to tell them in truth how you feel they're performing. But you don't want to be discouraging. You don't want to deflate them. You don't want to.
Yeah, and to judge it, there's really no necessity to give them that kind of feedback.
Right.
It's just really find the group that they belong in. There are different levels, and you make sure that they're in the level that they're happy to be in, where they're having fun and enjoying it.
Well, that would make sense, because you don't want somebody that isn't as talented to be showcased as not as talented because they're in the wrong group.
Right.
Because that just makes them feel worse, not better.
Exactly.
But if they're in a group with the same kind of talents, and they feel like they belong.
We live in a world that values the bread and butter of education, like science, technology, engineering, math. And they're all important subjects, but maybe you can speak for a bit about the importance of music to a student. What is it that a typical student gets out of learning a little bit about music?
Well, there's so much research about music and the positive effects. One thing that I know personally is that music is in all of my centers.
Okay.
Of course, it's in my physical center. I'm engaged that way. I'm engaged here as well with the mind, but I'm also engaged in my feelings. And there are very few things in life where all those parts of you and parts of the brain are being right. So there's a way in to reach almost any individual. If you're a cerebral type,
Right.
and we're going to talk about the notes and we're going to get into the math of music, it works well. If we're going to talk about how music feels, and you're that type that has that kind of intelligence, you're in. And then, of course, the physical. We have a lot of students who might have attention disorders. Put a pair of drumsticks in their hand, and all of a sudden they're paying attention. Put a microphone in their hand and they're singing, all of a sudden they're locked in. So I think there's just a lot of ways in. So, of course, music is so valuable from that, from an educational point of view, and getting that brain active and engaged. I think it's very, very powerful. I can go on and on and on about the value of it. And of course, for us with music, there are the maths of course, but there's also the technology side of it now. So we have so many of the young kids involved in music technology, which is really valuable because it's exciting to them. They're engaged. They're making their own music, their own beats, and they feel empowered. And they're also learning the keystrokes. So there's a computer literacy there alone. There's how these systems work and having the discussions about that at a very early age. We actually we have a bus that we're almost finished building, and it's the Lakehouse Mobile Recording Studio. But the bus has 8 workstations on it. It has a booth in the back, and we have an educator who's going to go to your school or to your party or wherever you're at, and they're going to bring this bus, and they're going to teach the kids about music technology. And they're going to have this opportunity to make music and leave with recorded music immediately.
That's important. See, when you talk about technology, I know that it's possible to pick out a tune on a keyboard and see the notes hanging on the staff. And a lot of people, the traditional composition approach was you write it out first and then you make copies and you hand it out. That's not the way music works anymore, though, is it?
No, definitely not. And technology helps that, but also the process and who you are as an individual. What if that is not your strength? What if you're not the cerebral type, but you're, I think about these amazing historic musicians. Think of someone like a Buddy Rich who did not read music at all. I mean, think about that. If he were to have to write it all out, he hired somebody to do that. But why put that limitation when it's not a necessity now? I do think it's important to know the fundamentals, to study, to take private lessons, to work hard. But why make that a limitation? It used to be, hey, you're going to have to get to this level before you get to play with the group. That's just a limitation. That's really just slowing people down. It's really stopping them, and you're not engaged if you have to be here and you're not that type. It's just a struggle and you're going nowhere.
No, that's great. So music education teaches me discipline because I need that to be a successful musician. It teaches me collaboration skills, how to work with other musicians who are maybe playing completely different instruments. It teaches me that. And it also gives me a kind of a physical focus. It gives me a way to concentrate on one thing and not be scattered and running around in a million different... that's something I have to devote all my time to, and I think that's really powerful too. That's great. We have to take a break. When we come back, Jon, more with Jon Leidersdorff and DisruptEDtv.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Be there.
Welcome back to DisruptEDtv. My name is Alcini.
And I'm Joe Asamendi.
And we're here with Jon Leidersdorff, who is the founder of Lakehouse Music Academy, which is a terrific school that we will know more about in a minute. But we were just talking about drumming, and I happened to explain that. I was making this noise, which I shouldn't do. And I took drum lessons once because I thought maybe I could be a drummer. But it didn't work out for me. And you explained really quickly, I probably just didn't have the right teacher.
Right.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, when you were tapping, I immediately thought of Johnny Carson.
Yeah, right. I thought about the same thing. I thought he was going to go like this.
Yeah, but Johnny Carson was an excellent drummer. And the same way that you're tapping is the way I started playing. I mean, drums was my first instrument, and that kind of energy that I had would come out. And I didn't realize it, but what I was tapping was something that I was hearing or something that I had heard. It was music coming through me there. So yes. You said that you thought drums would be the easiest instrument to play. So my take on it is, well, then it probably is the easiest instrument to play, especially for you. I mean, that's right where I would start with you, and right where an educator could potentially start with. Hey, there's that kid with all the energy, and he's tapping. Excellent.
Let's see if we can't work with that.
That's excellent.
Let's see if we can't build on that. Just because you're not a drummer right out of the box doesn't mean you can't be one.
No, you can be one right out of the box. And it's interesting how this message...
I'm limiting myself immediately.
At this, like the 5th time.
Right?
So you need someone to say, hey, that's great. And you'd say, oh, well, I am a good drummer.
See?
Right. So now, if you were tapping and you took your lesson and then we took you into a room and I showed you how to tap in a very simple part, and there were 5 other individuals that were playing with you at the same time, and you're like, wow, I'm leading the band now. I'm tapping, and they're playing to me, and what a great experience. Well, at least you're engaged.
I get a feedback, I charge back from that that encourages me to get better and to keep working at it.
And then when you
not
left
give
your
up.
when you left your group, and then you went back to your lesson, and you said, hey, teach, I'm working on this song with my group. And then they can say, oh, that's a great place to start.
That is great. I mean, and in a way, it's a life skill. It's not just a musical instrument. This is something that you can make anything work from any place you start. And you just don't give up, and that's it. So the key there is I gave up 5 times before we actually connected on this. And if I hadn't, I would have been further ahead. That's the point.
Well, and I think a key thing with anything at this point is, people might call it passion or enthusiasm, but you want to play the drums. That's where we start. That you want something. There's something that you're interested in. That's where we always have to go. What is the student? Where do I get them involved? What are they excited about? And if you can stay excited, and if I can be part of that, then you're going to work, and you're going to grow, and you're going to evolve. And whether drums are difficult or not difficult for you, you being engaged in them is what's important. So when we were talking earlier about, where somebody is, how talented they are, it's not really important at my academy right now. What's important when you're there is that we find where you're at and how you stay excited.
And then build something on that, which is great.
Yeah.
Now, talk a little bit too about how you take the show on the road. I know you mentioned Lakehouse Music Academy is a place, but you work with schools to embed Lakehouse Music Academy inside their curricula. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. We have some really excellent partnerships, and we really wanted that. We wanted to work with other partners and go into situations that most music academies don't have the opportunity to go to. We've been working with the school district in Asbury Park and taught at a majority of their grade levels. And to be able to go in there and ask a district, how can we help you, and what's interesting to you and your educators. And what some schools obviously are not very open to those kind of ideas, unfortunately, but some, like the Asbury Park district, were very interested in those type of collaborations. So we could talk to them about what their needs were each year. Hey, we're short on music teachers, or we want you to collaborate with our music teachers this way. This is what our teachers, this is how you can help our teachers. But also going in and doing music technology classes, and again, getting the kids excited where they're going to go in. They're going to talk about working on iPads and programming music. That's something that immediately can be engaging. Also, with our bus, being able to bring a bus there is exciting. We also work in charter schools where they didn't have music programs, where we actually came in and created music programs and more conventional type of music classes. But we do with certain school districts, which we do with Neptune, which is right around the corner from us. We'll go in and they'll have specific pull-out programs for at-risk youth, and we'll teach them songwriting. And we'll get the kids to express themselves. Of course, immediately, you're talking about things that are relevant to studying English. You're going to talk about metaphors, and you're going to talk about symbolism. You're going to get them to express themselves and open up. We taught with some ESL, language barriers. Same way. We went in and we talked about, hey, let's make some music together. We have Bilingual Educators. And we'll come in, let's make some music together. Let's talk about how challenging it is for you right now, coming to this country and not having, not be the primary language for you. But then you see these students start to express themselves. So there's so many ways. We're now with our Director of Education, Eric Novad. He's actually going into school districts and speaking to certain teachers and programs about, with the math programs and the relevance, the music and math. And there's teacher development that way.
Great.
So there's so many aspects now that we're doing and programming in different schools. We get called in, for example, with the Boys and Girls Club. We have a nice partnership. So we went into the Boys and Girls Club and we built a small recording studio, and it's a hip hop institute. So we have different programming for different days of the week, where we come in with a hip-hop producer, where the kids can look at it and say, wow, that guy looks a lot like me and likes the same music I like. What a great role model. We're teaching a hip-hop dance class there. We're also teaching a record label 101, which is a mini business class.
Right,
And
business.
we're talking
That's
about, creating your own URL and making your own t-shirts and your social media platforms. So these are really great classes. And again, different communities, different types of approaches. But we have a very large staff with a lot of teachers. And
Terrific.
yeah, so we're in that. One thing that we've learned is to go into where the students are and listen, and the educators will tell you where they need help, and the students will tell you what they want to do and what they want to work on, and we can get to work. Because when you say disrupted, we don't have to follow any specific rules.
Nice.
We have to come into it and look at it fresh, and we've been given this excellent job to come in and to look at it from a different vantage point and give a different perspective, and then put a system in place that's going to support what the people that are hiring us and the districts that are bringing us in. We get to do what they want us to do.
Well, you integrate music into life skills so well.
Yeah,
It's
that's
amazing.
important.
It's a beautiful transition.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, we're coming up on the end of our program, so this is your opportunity to spend a minute to talk into the camera to tell people how to reach you and maybe how they can connect with you to use some of your services. So,
Great. Well, you can find Lakehouse Music Academy online. Very easy to find.
Okay.
And you can call, you can ask for me directly. And even if it's just questions, there are a lot of people who reach out to us who are trying to do something similar in different areas. We want to support that community. But reach out to me directly. You can call
think-
me or
yeah, see, for
email
me,
me.
the power of all this, John, for me is that, first of all, I could have been a drummer, I guess, so I kind of figured that out.
So could have.
My really embarrassing
I could've
story
been a
is
contender.
around accordion lessons. We'll talk about that. some other time.
But it's not too late.
I
As a
know,
matter
I
of
know,
fact,
that's-
I promise before the show's over, we'll get you booked. We'll get you booked
Okay.
for a trial. You'll come in and you'll see people exactly like yourself. So
Really?
we have a lot of people who come in, adults who come in. Oh, I'm in my 50s. I'm in my 60s. I always wanted to play, and then I'll stitch you in a room with a half a dozen other people that feel exactly the same way, and you'll look at each other and you'll immediately be a community. And then we'll have a professional educator or two in the room with you. And before you leave that day, you will all be playing a song. And you'll say, I didn't know it was possible.
Terrific, John. Thank you very much for joining us today. You're a
Thank
great
you, John.
guest.
I think you've been booked before, haven't you?
No. Thank all of you for joining us today on DisruptEDtv. My name is Alcini.
I'm still Joe Osamendi.
Yeah, it's great program. Jon Leidersdorff, thank you very much, and we hope you'll join us again.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks
See you
very much.
next time.
Take care.
Great. You were great.
Thank you.